I teach sewing and crafts at the library, and today I'm going to show you how to sew this headband. Let's get started. For this project, you will need some fabric, some elastic that's either 3/4 of an inch or an inch wide, a large safety pin, some fabric scissors, sewing pins, and a sewing machine, and an iron and ironing board. First, we need to cut our fabric, so you're going to need one piece that is 12 inches wide by 15 inches long, one piece that is 2.5 inches wide and 12 inches long, and then two pieces that are 3 inches wide and 10 inches long. So I'm going to start with my biggest piece, and I'm going to fold it in half along the long edge with the right sides together, and I'm going to sew this shut. I'm also going to take the 2.5 inch wide piece and do the same thing. Fold it in half and sew along this longer edge. Once you sew your fabric together, you're going to press the seam open like this and turn it right sides out. Next, you want to flatten out the piece and make sure that the seam is close to the middle on the side that's facing up, and give this a nice press. This side with the seam is going to be the inside of the headband that faces your head. That way we won't see it. So this is a little bit trickier with this smaller piece of fabric. So this is where your large safety pin comes in. So poke it through just one side of the tube near the top. And then push the safety pin into the fabric tube and push it through, and eventually we'll make it to the other end. Okay, and then just keep pulling like this until it's right sides out, and then do the same thing, iron this flat with the seam in the middle. Next, we need to add our elastic to this smaller casing piece. So I cut a 6-inch piece of elastic and put a safety pin through the end, and I'm going to use this to insert the elastic into the casing. Okay, so I'm just going to push this through until the edge of the elastic meets up with this edge of the casing and the safety pin is still in the middle. Almost there. Okay, I'm going to make sure these are all lined up. And then I'm going to take a pin and stick this through the elastic to hold it in place. Like this. And then I'm just going to continue pushing the elastic through until it meets up with the other edge. And I'm trying not to twist the casing. I want to make sure that this seam in the middle stays in the middle for the length of the elastic. Okay, now I'm going to take out the safety pin. Line the elastic up with the fabric. And then put another pin in here. Okay. Now, we could leave it like this, but it's likely that the elastic will end up turning or the ruching of the fabric won't be even. So we're going to add a basting stitch along the length of this. So a basting stitch is just a really long stitch. So I'm going to take this to my machine. I have it set to do a straight stitch, but I turned the length up to 5 millimeters. Okay, so on one end, I'm going to make sure the fabric is flat, not bunched up at all. I'm going to put this underneath my foot and then lower it. I'm going to try and sew pretty close to the seam that we made. And then I'm going to go ahead and sink my needle into the fabric. And now I can pull out this pin. And I want to make sure that the fabric is pretty smooth right in front of the foot. Okay, so now I'm going to start sewing very slow. Okay, so I'm going to sew a little bit. And I'm going to keep adjusting the fabric as I go. And I'm also going to take that pin out of the end and pull on the elastic just a little bit. And just keep pulling the elastic to straighten out more of the fabric. So I sew a little bit, then keep pulling on the elastic and readjust your fabric. And just continue like this until you reach the end. So your casing should now look like this. Make sure it still stretches. And then if you end up with a little bit of fabric at the end where there's no elastic underneath, that's fine. Just go ahead and cut that off. Next, take your larger headband piece and lay it down with the right side facing up. So remember, the side at the seam is the wrong side. And then we're going to take our elastic and put it so that the right side is facing. So again, I'm going to make sure the part with the seam is facing up here. And then I'm going to line this up in the middle like this along the edge, and then I'm going to take the other corners and fold it over like this. And then I'm going to take this to the machine and do a couple rows of stitches going forward and backwards along this edge. Alright, so it should look like this, and then you're just going to repeat that for the other side. Now I'm going to turn the headband right sides out so that those stitches are covered up. Okay, so if you don't want to add a bow to your headband, you can stop here. If you do want to add the bow, then take those last two pieces of fabric, the 3 by 10, and I'm going to take one, fold it in half long ways, and now we're just going to cut these so that they go to a point at the end. So I'm not going to measure anything, I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm cutting from the raw edge to the folded corner. Okay, so I'm going to use that as my template for the other side, so just fold it like this. then repeat that for your other piece of fabric. Okay, now we're going to put these together with the right sides facing. So all the way around, but leave about a 2-inch gap on one of these long sides. Once I finish sewing my bow together, I turn it right sides out, pressed it nice and flat with my iron, and then sewed the gap shut with a coordinating thread. So now to attach it to your headband, you're going to want to fold in some of this extra fabric. Okay, and then just take your bow and tie it around the headband in the middle. And you might need to kind of adjust the bow until it looks nice. Okay, so there we have it. Here's our completed headband. I hope you guys enjoyed this project, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!